Racist, white family found dead after making life hell for their black neighbors. Some moments that seem insignificant can be enough to bend the entire order of a street. It was a summer afternoon in June, with the sun not yet set, when the Wilsons' small backyard party, a black family living on Maple Drive, Georgia, was brimming with pride. Their eldest son, Owen Wilson, 17 years old, had just received a full-ride scholarship to Morehouse College, one of the most prestigious historically black colleges in the United States. He wore the college's red hoodie over his shoulders like a dream come true, shaking hands and tightly hugging every relative who had come from afar. From Charlotte to Tallahassee, from his 82-year-old grandmother to his aunt, a high school teacher. They were all there, just to witness the moment the boy once called unfit for the neighborhood became the pride of the entire family. Ms. Renee, Owen's mother, quietly dabbed her tears with a napkin. He did it. He got a full ride, Morehouse. No loans, no burden. Her voice broke amid the joyful music and the scent of grilled meat drifting through the air. But not everyone shared the joy. Directly across from the Wilsons' yard, the white Felum family sat still on their porch like a frozen statue. Mr. Felum, a man in his 50s, a former maintenance worker, clenched his Budweiser can until it bent. His wife sat unmoving behind dark sunglasses like a wall of steel, while Brena, their 16-year-old daughter, secretly recorded the party with her phone camera, her eyes half scornful, half hostile. When the song, Before I Let Go, played for the second time, and the kids started tossing water balloons under the sunset, Brena tapped send on a message. Just a few minutes later, 2 police cruisers slowly rolled in from the end of the street, red and blue lights flashing like signals from another world. An officer stepped out, no greeting, no smile, no thorough observation, and coldly stated, "We received a noise complaint, requesting identification." Owen stepped forward, hands gently raised, cautious but polite. "Sir, this is my home. I just received a full-ride scholarship. This is a family celebration." Before he could finish his sentence, his arm was twisted behind his back, his neck shoved into the grass, and the officer's knee pressed hard into his back. All around, the air turned heavy. A little boy, Owen's younger brother, stood frozen, the water balloon slipping from his hand and bursting on the lawn like a symbol of something that had just broken in the heart of the entire family. Screams rang out. Phone cameras rose, but the officers remained silent, acting as if they were arresting a criminal. No report filed, no apology offered, just a few words. Situation handled, and the cold screech of tires cutting through the summer afternoon. And then, when everything fell quiet again, everyone turned to look at the house across the street. On the porch, Brena still sat, smiling faintly, her finger tapping record as if it were just her evening entertainment. But there was one thing she didn't know. From that very moment, Maple Drive would never again be the peaceful street it once was. And silence does not mean surrender. If you've enjoyed this story so far, take a moment to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Prejudice doesn't always come with yelling. Sometimes it arrives through neatly folded letters, unreturned greetings, and rules that apply only to one side. The Wilson family moved to Maple Drive 7 years ago, when Owen was just 10. It was a 2-story house with a white fence and a red tile roof, just like any other house on the street. But the looks they received were far from the same. The Felum family, living across the street, didn't wave, didn't say hello. Mr. Felum glanced over just once, then turned his back as if he'd seen something that didn't belong. At first, Renee, Owen's mother, tried to believe it was just a misunderstanding. But then the letters started coming. One letter from the neighborhood board claimed that The Wilsons' grass exceeded the allowed height by 0.25 inches. No one from the board had ever measured other neighbors' lawns, but for them, that margin of error was grounds for a warning. Then came the trash bin issue. Incorrect placement, obstructing neighborhood aesthetics. Meanwhile, the Felum's bin sat crooked by the curb, untouched by any complaint. The basketball hoop Owen installed on the sidewalk, a simple fixture for any American teen, was also ordered to be removed for being too close to the street, affecting traffic. Oddly enough, Brena, the Felum's daughter, had a similar hoop, which remains to this day. One weekday morning, as Renee and Owen prepared for work and school, they found their car blocked by an old pickup truck, driverless and without any note. The license plate belonged to a Felum cousin, someone who'd moved away 3 years prior. They spent 2 hours calling a tow truck. During that time, Mr. Felum sat on his porch, sipping beer and chuckling, offering no explanation. Every afternoon, when the Wilson kids played in the yard, a phone would be raised from the opposite window. Brena recorded from the upstairs floor, while Mr. Felum sat below, camera pointed directly at the lawn. No one spoke a word, but every movement of the children was recorded as if they were doing something illegal. Renee filed a police report with photos and detailed descriptions. The response: not enough evidence to determine threatening behavior. But she knew it was the most insidious kind of threat, when what they do isn't clear enough to be named, but heavy enough to suffocate you. Then came the notes. No one ever saw who left them. One day, they showed up in the mailbox. Some people in this neighborhood still know what real values are. Another time, under Owen's windshield. You people don't belong here. Not our kind. Renee didn't let the kids see, but Owen had already read one. He forced a smile, folded the paper, and slipped it into his pocket. I'm fine, he said, but his eyes grew more distant. Renee always told her children to hold their heads high, to smile, to rise above. But smiles slowly turned into obligations. Owen's little sister no longer dared ride her bike past the Felum's house, and even their small dog, the sweet little pudding, began to stop at the opposite sidewalk, silently tucking its tail and turning back. It wasn't an attack. It was a quiet bleeding, a form of violence without form, seeping deeper each day. And no one on the outside noticed until it was too late. After the party was broken up by sirens and a police officer's knee, the Wilsons' home was no longer a haven. It became a cocoon. And those inside, rather than speaking, began to shrink inward, one breath at a time. Owen's scholarship file, 22 pages thick, including a congratulatory letter from Morehouse's admissions office, still sat untouched on the dining table. Renee didn't touch it. Owen didn't either. No one brought it up again. The red hoodie Owen once proudly wore like a superhero's cape had vanished from its hook. He wasn't ashamed. He just didn't want it collecting dust from a world that had humiliated him. It's not that I'm no longer proud, Owen wrote in his notebook. It's that I don't want to bring the symbol of my dream into a battle I never chose. Owen's room became his world. No music, no phone, no screen. Only a desk lamp, black pens, and a notebook densely packed with handwriting, each line cutting deep into the page. He wrote for hours. Thoughts, feelings, the things he didn't dare say, didn't dare scream. His little sister, just 10 years old, began waking up at 3 a.m., saying she heard knocking at the door. Once, she screamed, thinking someone was standing in the dark outside the yard. After that, she stopped sleeping in her room. She lay beside their mother, clutching her hand like she might have to run at any moment. Renee did everything a mother could. She called the police department's tip line. sent emails with subject lines in bold. Use of excessive force. No accountability. She attached a 47-second video recorded by Owen's friend, showing him being pinned face first to the grass. It had over 22,000 views on Facebook, but no one called back. A week later, she printed a still image from the video. The moment Owen's face was pressed into the ground, his eyes wide open, and taped it to the refrigerator door like an unerasable scar. The photo began to fade, but Renee didn't take it down. In case one day someone forgets, she said softly, at least the wall will remember. Neighbors who once gave out gingerbread cookies at Christmas now walked past without meeting her eyes. Someone who'd once asked Owen to dog sit while they were on vacation now lowered their head and walked straight ahead whenever they crossed paths. No one said sorry, but avoidance echoed louder than any excuse ever could. In his notebook, Owen wrote, "Politeness didn't save me. Not pushing back, not shouting, not arguing. None of it saved me. If silence is the only thing I have left, then I have to learn how to make it terrifying." The air inside the house changed. Every small sound, a spoon dropping, a chair sliding, made everyone flinch. They learned to move softly, speak less. But fear didn't fade. It just shifted from sound to gaze. And in the darkness of a second-floor bedroom, Owen kept writing, steadily, silently, but sharp as a razor blade. Across the street, the Felum's porch light seemed to stay on longer each night. Mr. Felum laughed louder every time he talked on the porch phone. Brena posted provocative TikTok videos with mocking captions more frequently. They weren't just living, they were celebrating. Because to them, it wasn't a disturbance. It was a victory. Monday morning, 6:37 a.m. A maintenance worker at Holloway's steel plant on the outskirts of Atlanta noticed something strange. Mr. Felum's familiar silver-gray pickup truck was still sitting quietly in the lot, parked exactly where he usually parked, but the engine was running, and had been since the night before. 1 call, 2 calls, then 5. No one answered. The car was locked, the windows slightly fogged from the morning dew, and inside was an image that would haunt the worker forever. Mr. Felum, 56 years old, balding, gray-bearded, eyes staring blankly, was slumped over the steering wheel. His hand loosely rested on the gear shift, the keys still in the ignition. No blood. No injuries. No signs of a struggle. When the ambulance arrived, the doctor took just minutes to determine. The heart had stopped, body temperature had dropped evenly, and time of death was estimated over 7 hours prior. The coroner's report concluded plainly. Sudden cardiac event, no signs of toxins, no internal damage, no suspects. Channel 9's midday news dedicated 42 seconds to the story. No special coverage, no interviews. Just a shot of the truck cordoned off with yellow tape, paired with a bland narration. A middle-aged man was found deceased at his workplace this morning. Police do not suspect foul play. But on Maple Drive, where Mr. Felum used to mow his lawn every Saturday, used to sit on his porch with a beer, used to glare at the Wilsons as if they were a stain on his white fence, the air turned unmistakably cold. No flowers were laid, no condolences exchanged. Neighbors whispered behind their curtains, not out of grief, but out of fear. Renee heard the news from Ms. Teresa, an elderly neighbor who used to go grocery shopping with her. She didn't text. She knocked on the door, looked around and whispered, "He just stopped breathing, that's all." Owen watched the news report on TV, the glow of the screen washing over his face, expressionless. He didn't frown. He didn't sigh. He just sat there, as if confirming something that had already happened long ago in his mind. Across the street, Brena, The only surviving member of the Felum household posted a black and white photo of her father on Instagram. The caption included 3 emojis: a broken heart, praying hands, and a beer mug. 87 likes, 12 comments. Most read, "Rest easy," and "Gone too soon." But just hours later, an anonymous account reposted the video from the party nearly 3 weeks earlier, the moment Owen was slammed to the ground, along with a caption: "The price of arrogance is eternal silence." The post received 3,200 shares. Some called it a coincidence. Some called it karma. But everyone agreed on one thing: the air in the neighborhood had changed. That night, the Wilsons didn't turn on their porch light. Renee didn't sleep. She sat on the sofa, staring out the window, clutching the photo of Owen being pinned by police. But she didn't cry. And Owen, he didn't write in his notebook like he did every other night. He simply stood at his bedroom window, the streetlight glinting in his eyes. He stared straight across the street, at the porch, now dark, the laughter now gone, the light Mr. Felum once left on every night now completely out. No words, no reaction. But in that silence, something had irrevocably changed. After Mr. Felum's sudden and strange death, Maple Drive sank into a different kind of silence. Not confusion, but caution. Yet no one spoke of it. No one dared. However, one person refused to stay quiet. Just 3 days after her husband's modest funeral, Mrs. Felum began posting on her personal Facebook page. Not directly, but with just enough passive aggression. There are people who come to this neighborhood without knowing what respect means. Some values deserve to be preserved, not crushed beneath noise and chaos. She crafted an image of herself as the victim of cultural invasion, of a generation without boundaries. Her final post received over 200 likes and 87 comments, most from local neighborhood accounts or old friends from the Retired Teachers Association. Renee read it once, then never logged back in. As for Brena, the daughter still in 11th grade, she didn't choose sorrow. She filmed a TikTok at 1 a.m., her makeup heavy, with a wailing siren as background music. Caption: "When your block party turns into an episode of Cops." The clip included a shot of Owen lying face down in the grass, cut from the viral video, and was added at the end like a punch to the face. It racked up over 42,000 views in just 18 hours. No one at school said anything to Owen about the clip, but everyone had seen it. The sociology teacher shut her laptop quickly when Owen entered the classroom. A sports coach canceled a scholarship counseling session at the last minute. In the hallway, whispers followed behind Owen. If he's innocent, why does he keep staying silent? People who didn't do anything wrong usually speak up, don't they? What if that death wasn't so random? Renee, exhausted and drained by anonymous messages and hundreds of demands for a response, deleted all her social media. No Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter. She even canceled the phone number registered for community services. No one could reach her, except Owen. But Owen was different. He didn't react, didn't post, didn't reply to messages, didn't talk to anyone. But he still showed up to school on time, still completed his assignments, still had dinner with his mother. He didn't disappear. He endured, so quietly it made people uneasy. And that's exactly what turned him into a symbol. Online, anonymous accounts began referring to Owen as the shadow of justice. An artist in Brooklyn painted an image of Owen standing quietly before the fire from the party video, with the caption, "He didn't scream. The world did it for him." The meme spread. Owen's image appeared on t-shirts, TikTok videos, and even projected onto a wall at a protest art exhibition in New Jersey. One anonymous Twitter account even started a series called The Silent Files, a collection of quotes said to be from Owen's notebook, though none could be verified, featuring lines like, "Silence is how I keep from shattering. No one can force me to scream when the world already trembles at what I haven't said." But Owen didn't confirm, didn't deny. He simply remained silent. And maybe that's why people began to fear him. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but they couldn't predict what he might do next. After Mr. Felum's unexplained death, Brena was no longer the girl behind the window secretly filming her neighbors. She didn't hide. She stepped out onto the porch with a beer in hand, wearing a cropped tank top, blasting music at full volume from a Bluetooth speaker, her eyes daring the whole neighborhood to react. Every night, the Felum house echoed with pounding music, hip-hop mixed with rock, strobe lights flashing like a cheap nightclub. Strangers began to show up. Tattoos, the smell of weed, motorbikes tearing down Maple Drive like a racetrack. One Friday night, neighbors called the police over screaming at 1:48 a.m. But when the patrol car arrived, Brena was sitting right on the porch, feet up on the table, lifting her beer with a smile. "I'm on my property, right?" No one dared respond. Renee locked every window. Owen still went to school, still said nothing, but now always wore headphones. He didn't listen to music. He just wanted to mute the outside world. The breaking point came on a Sunday night, 11:27 p.m. Brena went live on Instagram. The lighting was blurry, her face flushed, lips pale from alcohol. Her eyes were bloodshot, her mouth repeating Owen's name like a twisted incantation. "Who does he think he is?" she slurred, holding a bottle. "Y'all can go ahead and pity him. Silence is just his shell. Don't think silence means harmless. He ain't got nothing." Over 700 people watched live, with dozens of comments scrolling by every second. But Brena didn't care. She kept rambling, her eyes flickering between panic and emptiness. Finally, she looked straight into the camera, smiled crookedly, and said, "I'm not scared of you. I'm a Felum." The livestream ended. The next morning, a security guard at a downtown Atlanta parking structure noticed something odd. A cream-colored sedan had been parked on the top level since dawn, locked, with no sign of anyone. When police arrived to check, the car was completely cold. No signs of impact, no broken glass, no purse left behind. Just a pair of high-top Converse sneakers, neatly placed on the passenger seat. Security footage confirmed. The car entered the garage at 3:04 a.m. No footage of anyone getting out. Police issued an official missing persons alert. Brena's school portrait was shared across social media with the hashtag #Bring Brena Home. But the comments beneath those posts grew colder by the hour. That's 3 now. This time, there were no witnesses. Maybe it's finding its way home. Maple Drive fell into fear once again. But this time, no one called the police about the noise. No one complained about cars parked incorrectly. People just shut their doors. Earlier. Renee declined all interview requests, but when a WSB TV reporter approached her at the local market, she simply offered a sad smile, clutched her grocery bag tightly, and said, "We're praying for every soul in this neighborhood." Owen, for the first time in weeks, didn't go to school that day. Instead, he stayed home, stood by the window, looked across the street at the house now void of light, eerily silent, for the first time since Mr. Felum's death. But in that silence, Owen smiled. Keva, 17 years old, used to be the gentlest soul in the Felum family. She loved writing poetry, collecting hardcover books, and always wore headphones whenever her sister blasted EDM too loud. But ever since Brena disappeared, House number 17 on Maple Drive was no longer the place Keva called home. Her hair had become tangled, her fingernails chipped and ink-stained. The dark circles under her eyes weren't from sleepless nights. They came from prolonged hypervigilance. The psychologist called it environmental dysphoria. But Keva didn't need a diagnosis. She knew exactly what she was afraid of. She stopped going to school in the second week after Brena vanished. The official statement from her mother was psychological recovery after family trauma. But no one believed it. Some classmates claimed they had seen Keva standing behind the classroom curtain, looking in, then turning away. In a house so silent it felt haunted, Keva no longer slept in her bedroom. She laid out an old mattress in the middle of the hallway, the point connecting 3 rooms, hers, Brena's, and her parents'. The hallway light stayed on all night, so bright that the bulb had to be replaced every 2 days. Each night, Keva would check every lock, the front door, the back door, the second-floor window latches, even the chain she had added to the bathroom door. She placed a wooden chair under the doorknob, just as her grandmother had taught her as a child. But not to keep out burglars, to keep out something else. Keva called the police at least 7 times over 10 days. Reason: someone is standing outside my window. When the police arrived, no footprints, no camera footage of anything unusual. A young officer, fresh out of the academy, whispered to his partner, "She's not afraid of other people. She's afraid of her own family's shadow." Then one early morning, at 5:13 a.m., Keva found something that made it impossible for her to stay silent any longer. A yellow envelope wedged under the front door. No stamp, no postmark, no sender's address. Just one word: Keva, written in red ink, slanted, shaky, as if the writer's hand had frozen. Inside was a photograph, the Felum family at last year's 4th of July party. Awkward smiles, the American flag in the background, and a tray of hot dogs still on the table. But the image had been defaced. Mr. Felum's face crossed out. Mrs. Felum's face was crossed out. Brena's face was crossed out. Keva's face wasn't erased. It was circled. The red ink scratched so hard it tore through the glossy paper. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She just stared at the photo, her hands pressed to her chest, trembling uncontrollably. After that, Keva did something no one had ever seen before. She took down every curtain in the house, unplugged all the televisions, turned off every electronic device, and began stuffing pillows under every door crack. That night, she tried to book a taxi through an app, but didn't use her real name. She chose the name Marissa Jones and set the pickup point at the intersection near the fire station. The car arrived, but Keva didn't come out. She had already put on her coat, slung her backpack over her shoulder, and wallet in hand standing just behind the front door. But she couldn't step outside. She couldn't leave the house. Not because she was afraid someone was waiting out there, but because she knew. Just one step, one glance, if her eyes met Owen's, she would see something no one survived after seeing. Tuesday morning, 10:04 a.m., while the U.S. history class was discussing the Cold War, a different kind of silence crept through the hallways of Madison Heights High School. 2 men in white shirts, silver badges clipped to their belts, entered through the main doors. No sirens, no stomping boots, just a chill sweeping past the front office. They didn't introduce themselves, but the office staff understood the moment they saw the small insignia on the badges. FBI. "We need to speak privately with Owen Wilson. Just a friendly conversation." The receptionist tried not to look startled. Her hand trembled slightly as she knocked on the door of room 203, where Owen was neatly taking notes in the corner by the window. She knocked 3 times, as softly as a breeze. Owen stood up. He looked at no one, said nothing, showed no surprise. He followed the 2 strangers as if he had been expecting them all along, The counseling room had frosted glass. One of the men pulled the blinds down, ensuring complete privacy. No lawyer, no handcuffs, no official recorder. "We'd like to ask you a few questions. You're not obligated to answer. But we hope you'll be honest." Owen nodded. His eyes held neither fear nor defiance, just stillness. "Last Friday. Where were you between 10 p.m. and midnight?" Owen opened his backpack, pulled out a printed receipt from the community library. Checkout time, 9:56 p.m. He also handed over a group study room reservation slip from 10 p.m. to 11:45 p.m. Both documents bore QR codes and a librarian's signature. "I was reading The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin," Owen said softly, still reading it. One of the agents jotted down, "James Baldwin, literature on racial inequality, themes of social resistance." The other agent stared at Owen intently. "Have you had any contact with the Felum family in the past 2 weeks?" Owen answered instantly, without hesitation. "No. I only see them when I look out the window." At this point, one of the agents changed his tone. "Have you ever felt threatened, Owen?" For the first time, Owen looked up. His eyes were quietly bright. No resentment, no trembling, just the truth. "All the time," he said. The entire room fell silent, like it had frozen over. There was no concrete evidence to charge Owen, no search warrant. They had no legal reason to detain him, only a string of unease tied to things ink and paper could never capture. The conversation ended after 23 minutes. No one said it out loud, but everyone felt they had just touched something extremely dangerous, though not because of violence. When Owen returned to class, the bell hadn't rung yet, but the hallway was packed with students. No one spoke, but everyone looked, not with curiosity, but with the kind of gaze you give a storm forming on the horizon. You can't stop it, can't outrun it. You can only wait to see who it chooses. In class, he sat back in his seat, flipped to the next page in his notebook like nothing had happened. The teacher glanced at him briefly, then turned back to the board, as if lecturing with a pen under a gun barrel. That evening, at home, Renee was standing in the kitchen, drying a glass with a cotton cloth. When Owen walked in, she didn't turn around. Just one question echoed, quiet, but as clear as a bronze bell. "Did you say enough?" Owen nodded. No other words were needed. No one in that house needed to hear anything else. 3 people had vanished from Keva's life, her father, her mother, and her sister, falling one by one like dominoes pushed by an invisible hand. No one was arrested, no one was charged, no one was officially killed. They just ceased to exist. And Keva, the last one left, lived like a soul trapped in her own house, as if waiting for her turn. She no longer slept in the bedroom. Each night, Keva curled up on the living room floor, inside a circle she had made herself, a baseball bat once used in the school tournament, a rusted fruit knife, a can of expired pepper spray, and a phone with the security camera app always open. Some nights, the motion alert went off, but when she checked the footage, there was only the porch light flicking on and the curtain swaying gently as if in the wind, even though the night air was still. Sometimes Keva dreamed, and in those dreams, her father sat at the dining table, eyes rolled white, tapping a spoon steadily against the wood. Her mother stood behind him, whispering an old lullaby. And Brena? She was smiling, still holding her phone, the camera aimed straight at Keva's face, as if live streaming from hell. One morning, just as the sun peeked over the rooftop, Keva stepped out to check the mailbox, her hands trembling as if the whole metal box might explode. Inside was a folded piece of paper, no stamp, no return address. Just one line. Only one remains. Then we rest. No exclamation mark. No signature. But the slanted letters and slightly smeared red ink, as if written with a wet finger, nearly brought Keva to her knees. From that moment on, Keva could no longer tell what was real and what was not. She heard footsteps in the hallway, but when she rushed out to check, there was only a flickering light. She saw a shadow outside the glass door, but when she turned on the light, no one was there. She tried turning on the TV for distraction, but every channel was static, playing only an echo of her voice. I don't want to be next. Finally, Keva decided to run. Run. Not just a plan in her head. She booked a car through an app using a fake name, Jenna Ray. Destination: an old motel nearly 30 miles from Maple Drive, tucked deep in the pine woods, rarely visited. She paid in cash, checked into room number 6, and drew the curtains tight. The windows were taped along the edges, the door was chained, and a chair was wedged against the handle. For 3 days, Keva never left the bed. She didn't sleep. She just stared at her phone screen, watching the live feed from the camera on her front lawn. Every time something moved, a falling leaf, the shadow of a cat crossing the street, she held her breath. On the 3rd day, the motel receptionist heard faint crying from behind door number 6. He called the police. When they broke in, Keva didn't resist. She was slumped on the floor, hair tangled, face pale. Her eyes were wide open, bloodshot, but vacant, like someone who had seen the edge of the world. When the officer asked for her name, Keva didn't answer. Only when a female paramedic knelt, gently took her hand, and said, "You're safe now." Did Keva move her lips slightly? Just one sentence. I don't want to be next. That morning, Atlanta was bathed in sunlight. On the historic campus of Morehouse College, which had nurtured thousands of brilliant black minds across the nation, a yellow school bus came to a stop. No one stepped off right away. And then Owen appeared. An old gray jacket, a black backpack slung off one shoulder, holding his folded admission letter. No one waited for him. No name tag, no camera flash, no farewell hug. Just a young man walking like someone who had crossed a desert, finally seeing a drop of water. He submitted his documents, received the key to room 214 in Brawley Hall dorm. The staff member asked, "Need help with your luggage?" Owen simply shook his head and said softly, "No thanks. I brought all I need." The room was bare. A single bed, a wooden desk with a cracked corner, a window facing the lawn, where other students were cheering the start of a new school year. Owen sat down, didn't take off his shoes. He placed his backpack at his feet and stared at the ceiling fan, its creaking rhythm like a countdown to something no one else could see. He didn't smile, didn't cry. Just silence. But inside, thousands of words had already been written, not in ink, but in memory. At the same time, over on Maple Drive, the house once known as the Felum residence stood still, like an old scar that hadn't healed. The grass reached knee-high. The rusted mailbox tilted to one side. The windows were dusty, some cracked, yet no one dared to fix them. No for sale sign, no moving truck, no sign that anyone had ever lived there. Just a void, so stark it made people want to forget. The Wilson home was different. The roof had been repainted ocean blue. The garden now bloomed with tulips and lavender, as if someone was trying to turn memories into something that smelled like hope. Every afternoon, Renee sat on the porch, a glass of mint tea in hand, looking out onto the street. When someone passed by, she smiled, not forced, not guarded. Owen's bedroom window remained slightly open, even though its owner had gone. A white curtain fluttered gently in the breeze, like a question, still unanswered. No one in the neighborhood spoke of what had happened. The police didn't return. The school stopped asking questions. Neighbors whispered, But no one dared form the words out loud. Some new families moved in, unaware of the past. But the kids still avoided that road on their way to school. No one told them to. They just knew. There was no verdict, no indictment, no public funeral. But there was an ending. Because some deaths need no explanation, some disappearances leave no trace, and some lessons, just one glance at an empty house is enough to understand. Owen didn't need to stand in court, didn't need to shout. He only needed to survive and let the truth speak for itself.